And we're recording, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our CCNA Cyberops instructor class for, what is today? Valentine's Day. How's that? For Valentine's Day, we are going to talk a little bit about how the class is structured. We're going to talk about our different ways that we can, or we're going to use the class, and we're going to talk about NetLabs and some other resources. So let me get all my stuff up and going here so we're all in the right place, and then I'm going to share my desktop. So, and unfortunately I'm going to share the screen here, and you're all gonna see my screen. Can everybody see it? We good? All right, I'm gonna actually minimize that just so that we don't have to have that taking up part of the screen. So what I want to do first is talk to you about canvas.stanley.edu. Thank all of you for doing your initial assignment. I really appreciate that. For the most part, I will tell you from here on out, we will not even be using canvas.stanley.edu. If you want, feel free to log in, go to your course, and then use these links to go to NetAcad or NetLabs. But you also can just go straight to netacad.com if you want to. You do not have to go through our canvas.stanley.edu. I will be asking you throughout the course, in about 3 or 4 weeks, I'll send out an email and say, please log in to canvas.stanley.edu. And you're just basically verifying attendance at that point. Word of warning, we have recently gone to AD in the cloud, the Azure AD. So when you log into Canvas now, instead of using just the first part of your Stanley email address, you actually have to use the entire email address. You have to use, if you're Donald Duck 4444, it would be donaldduck@scc.stanley.edu. So use your entire email address to log in, and that literally changed 3 or 4 days ago. So be aware, canvas.stanley.edu, we're pretty much completely finished with. Any questions about the assignments there or what you did there? I don't really think there's a big thing there. I did actually go ahead and grade and give you all hundreds on it, and I appreciate you doing that. And by the way, I did read all your intros, but I still can't remember where everybody's from. I've been hit by a truck. That's one thing I will tell everyone real quick. I will start my video so I can kind of show you just a second here. 3 years ago, you can kind of see it right here. I still use this as my excuse. I was hit by a truck while cycling. Was actually paralyzed from the waist down, or excuse me, from the neck down. So I was a quadriplegic for a while. And thank God I've learned to walk again, and I can basically use my hands. I still have some physical ailments from it, and so occasionally I'll have a day like today. I was planning on doing this meeting from my office, but I had to come home and get some medicine and be ready to just lay down after this meeting's over. So there may be a time during our meetings where I have to cancel a meeting on a short notice, and if I do, I apologize. But it's just living with a spinal cord injury. It is not something that is fun, but thank goodness I'm blessed. God blessed me to be able to walk and to do some of the things I am able to do. So, but that is my excuse for forgetting things too. I call it HBAT. Anybody know what that is? HBAT. Hit by a truck. That's my excuse. I'm not getting older. I've just been hit by a truck. So our second item is in NetAcad. So all of you should be in the NetAcad now. All of you should be able to get into our CyberOps class. And folks, I've got to tell you, this class excites me. I've been in the Academy program. In fact, I certified in CyberOps, finished my second test, not this Monday, but the Monday before I did the SecOps test. So I'm officially fully CCNA Cyberops certified. And during that, I got to look at my certification information because I had to send it into the training group at Cisco, and realized that I have been a CCNA since February of 1999. So I've been a CCNA for 20 years. And then I got to thinking about different classes and all the different things in the Academy. And I can tell you that this is the least Cisco class you will ever take. It is more on open source. It's more on things that we are looking at doing to make someone a first level 1 security operations analyst or a SOC level 1 analyst. And I really think you're going to enjoy this course because it is something very different from our CCNA security and CCNP, the other courses inside of the academy. Having said that, those of you who've been in my classes, the setup for it is not very different. In fact, for all of you, the major area for you to go to when you come into one of my classes is to click on modules. Almost everything you will do in my class will be from the modules tab. Now, there's a couple things here that I've done for you. One is there is these course introductions and there's an ethical hacking statement. So you have to look at that and agree not to hack anything, and you know that so that you don't end up in jail, because jail is bad. I did put a link in here for our NetLab. So if you click here, it will open, you can open another tab that will take you to our NetLab system, just in case you forget netlabs.stanley.edu. Dan Abergetti is also teaching NetLab's Cyberops course for us. And Dan is from Dan's courses, if you happen to know Dan. But Dan just posted this big, huge thing of resources in the other class. And I asked him for permission to post all these in here. And so I posted all of this into your course too. So there's Global IPD Week, information on how to use Nmap and Wireshark, how to use Security Onion. There's links to the SEC 210, the 210, 250, and 210, 255, because you do know, and we'll talk more about this next week, that Cyberops is 2 tests, not just 1. By the way, 210, 250, the SEC fundamentals is very easy, I thought. 210, 255 is much more difficult. But we'll talk about some other resources. I used the Udemy practice test for 210, 255 and felt those did a good job. But that is where on that intro page, you have some additional resources that I have given you. Otherwise, we will follow a pretty set regime for our classes. You'll read the chapter. You'll do the labs. I will lecture on those chapters as we see fit. Some I won't. We'll talk some about that too. But we'll lecture on some chapters. You'll do labs and you'll upload them, and then you'll do the chapter exam. Now, if the lab has a NetLabs component, I want you to go do it in NetLabs. If it doesn't, then you will be doing just a lot of these labs are honestly what I call Word labs or Word document labs. So you go and look at it, you read up on some stuff, you fill in the document, and you upload it. By the way, these links and these uploads are all items that I have done, and you'll see they also have due dates on them. There's a couple things here. First off, there are a ton of different labs and assignments in this class, okay? You see all these like this, using Windows PowerShell. Chapter 2 goes straight to using Windows and Linux. I want you to realize that in my instructor classes, I only expect you to really do about 80% of the labs for you to be able to pass the class. Now, I strongly recommend you do all the labs. However, some of these you're going to look at, like visualizing black hats, you're going to look at that lab and maybe say, well, I don't want to do that one. I'd rather do the case study, or I'd rather do this one. We're also going to talk about the 2 different ways that this class can be taught. If you have NetLabs, you're going to load the NetLabs pods and you're going to use NetLabs. If you don't, then you have to load a VirtualBox environment, and we'll actually go through that. And I will give you, I actually have a lab or a video that shows walking through that lab. Does someone have a question? If you got one, just unmute yourself and let it rip. Please stop me at any time. So don't freak out. That's one of my #1 instructor class rules. You're going to look at this and go, oh, Lord, look at all these different assignments. Yes, there are a bunch, but as long as you do 80% of them, I'm going to be happy. I strongly recommend, if you want to pass the exam, as someone who has passed the exams, I strongly recommend you do all the labs. Otherwise, you're really going to shoot yourself in the foot a little bit. Due dates are not set in stone. In other words, I do put due dates on everything, and I do that because if you're like me, the thing without due dates is the thing that usually doesn't get done or gets done last. Having said that, realize if you turn in something on February 19th that was due February 17th, I'm not going to take off 20 points. Now, for my students, yes, I'd take off 20 points or 10 points, 5 points a day. But for you, I'm not going to do that. So just be aware. I understand that you're adults. You're working 40 hours a week. You're going to fall behind. In March, I've got 2 week-long trips. So there'll be 2 weeks in there where I'm going to have trouble grading things. And so I'm going to catch you some slack and hope you'll cut me a little bit of slack at the same time. All right. Any questions about the flow of class? About what we're going to do weekly? We're going to meet. We're going to discuss the chapters and any concepts you have. My goal is to actually do lectures on each one of the chapters and put those on YouTube, and then let you. We'll flip the classroom so you can do those, watch those lectures, and then we'll just discuss the chapters. There are some things that we're just not going to go over. For instance, I'll be quite honest with you. If you are a CCNA and have been working in CCNA, we don't need to go over Chapter 4. Chapter 4 is everything that you should already know. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the labs, because there are some things that could possibly be on the test, and I'm not pointing at anything, but there could be some things that could be there, similar things that you'd need to know. But as far as concepts, Chapter 4, all of you know everything that's in Chapter 4 and really in Chapter 5. So there'll be some chapters I do the hand wave over. So I just go, it's like I tell my students, these are not the droids you're looking for, move along, okay? That's probably copyright, so I'm gonna put this on. I shouldn't have done that since it's gonna be put on YouTube. Any questions about this portion? All right, well, let's look at this. Using PowerShell, Windows PowerShell. If you've never used NetLabs, once you log in, and I'm actually send you I got 2 people working on labs right now. I'm going to send you a link on how to log in NetLabs and a video for how to do it. But it's really simple. You just click on Schedule. You schedule a lab for yourself. You find your class. Now, all of our classes start with KFC because that's my initials, Kelly Franklin. It's not because I just like chicken, although I do like chicken. Yours is this Cyberops class. Click here. And then for now, ignore the skills-based assessment. That's what you'll have to do at the end when we do our skills assessment. And then click on Cyberops and go find the lab that you want to do. So for right now, I'm just going to do this, getting familiar with the Linux shell. You'll notice that there are only 4 pods. No, that's a lie. If you click at this little, that's one of the things I want you to notice. If you click the little arrow here, there are actually like 15 different Cyberops pods. Any of them will do what you want them to do, so you feel free to use any of them. Be aware when you make a reservation, if you click on the red line, that means start the reservation right now. You do have the ability to go anytime into the future and do a reservation. I just ask, if you do make a reservation, please use it. If you make a future reservation and see you're not going to be able to use it, try your best to go in and cancel that reservation, which is just literally logging in and clicking on the cancel reservation. So I've scheduled a reservation, and here in a little bit, it will actually come up to where I can actually go into it. So let's see here. Let me refresh this. Actually should be here already. Oop, schedule me another one. Lab for myself. How many of you have used NetLabs before? I know all of you have been in my classes have, so. Okay. Might be, what time is it showing here? 4:20. No, that's right. It's a little 2 minutes behind, but that's pretty close to my watch. Oop, I clicked cancel. That's why it didn't work. I'm a doofus. Another thing with the fingers, a little tough to do there. All right, so that should work. I should eventually, yep, there we go. So I've got 2 different labs here I could go into. If one was in the future, I could click right here and I could click cancel reservation. And then that way it wouldn't be using the resources for, even though I'm not in there. So I'm gonna go into a lab and show you the lab booting. It is a neat little pod. They've got it set up where there's a Kali Linux box, Security Onion, Metasploitable, a Windows client, and the Cyberops workstation. So you can click through here and get access to any of the different machines. And let's see, it's Analyst and well, I didn't spell that right. Cyberops is the password, which all that is included in the content. So content's right here, okay? And so you can just go straight through the lab and do the labs inside of our environment. Now, this is really nice if you do have NetLabs. If you don't have NetLabs, you're going to have to use a different setup, but we will discuss that next week. I'll show you the two different setups. Right now, it's just making sure you understand how to get into NetLabs and how to make a reservation. Any questions on that? I do want to show you one cool thing I've set up in the class is, and you really probably shouldn't need this, but just in case you do, I do have a thing called extensions set up so that if you get to the end of a lab and the lab's about to end, and by the way, the labs take about 5 to 8 minutes to start up, and then they also, at the end, the last 10 minutes will be used to restore them to a snapshot. So if you only give yourself an hour lab, you really have about 45 minutes of lab time. Well, if you get to the end of the lab and you don't have enough time to finish it, there's an item that lets you request an extension when you get within like 10 or 15 minutes of the lab being over. If you do that, it'll give you another 15 minutes. So I've allowed up to 2 extensions. That way, if you catch yourself in that situation, you won't have to worry about the lab ending before you can finish the lab. Now, if you're in a lab and you're done with it, you complete everything and you're finished, then you just go up to reservation and do end reservation. Okay. And the same thing there, you saw that if you had a reservation and you needed more time, you can go up here and you can go reservation, request more time, and see it can be extended within 15 minutes of the end time, and then you'll be actually able to go up there and extend it and give yourself more time to do the lab. I really want to tell you about one other thing, and that is if you don't have NetLabs and you don't want to set up the local machines, there is now an option through NDG to buy access to the NetLabs labs in their cloud environment. And so your students can actually buy that. And I don't know the exact cost, but it's actually something they just added. And your students would have a token to go into their cloud environment. So my wife's coming in. Hold on one second. Yeah, my wife was just talking on the phone when she came in. I was like, I'm working. So you can see 1 month access is $11.95, 3 months is $29.95, and 6 is $39.95. So your students can purchase for themselves this access, and then they can literally go from each lab at the end of each module. And I removed that from my course, but at the end of each module, there is a NetLabs item. They just click and go do their labs for that particular chapter. So are there any questions so far? No questions whatsoever. Okay, one last thing I'll show you before we open up the questions again is my YouTube channel. So it's KCaudle52. You'll notice there's Wookie, my lab that unfortunately went to the Great Hunt in the Sky a couple years ago. We have under playlist, and I will send out to you a link to all of our videos, but there's a playlist, ITC Classes Spring 2019. And then you'll see that we've already had I've had 2 classes, a scaling and connecting meeting where I combined them, and I've had a security meeting this week. So your classes will be placed in here, and it will be CCNA Cyberops class meeting 2/14/2019, so that you'll be able to find your meetings and do your and review if you need to. Okay. So again, the way we're going to work this class is you're going to log into netacad.com or canvas.stanley.edu to get to netacad.com. You're going to read the chapters. You're going to complete at least 80% of the labs, and you're going to complete every chapter exam. And if a lab has a NetLabs component, you'll go to netlabs.stanley.edu, complete that lab, and upload your completed lab. In other words, you'll upload the answers to the questions in the PDF for the class, or the Word doc if you have a Word doc of the lab. And then you will review your classes on my YouTube channel if needed, if you cannot make this particular class meeting. So I'm going to, all right, so do you have any questions at all that you think maybe a classmate would need to hear, or that would be a question that multiple folks in the course would need, or just any question whatsoever? I'm going to open the floor to questions.
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, we got no questions there. I believe that was George. Anybody else? Okay. All right. I'm going to do this then. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And then I'm going to stop recording.